There we go. Oh, there we go. I can't even say that. See, I haven't finished my coffee yet. I just wanted to say good morning, good evening, good afternoon, lovely people. This is Maria Lessie with Toni Mills for yet another Upspiral Grief interview. And I'm a little bit flustered because I'm in holiday mode. This is not my house. We are away with a couple of girlfriends and boys. So if you hear a little bit more noise than usual, that's the boys running through, and that's absolutely fine. That's what life is. And Toni, you are in holiday mode too. You're on the Gold Coast, is that right?
That's right, yes.
I want to quickly share how I met Toni, and then I'm going to get you to introduce yourself. Toni was actually connected through a common friend, Karen. If you're watching this, thank you so much for connecting us. I'm really, really grateful because I'm super pumped about this interview today. I really, really love your story. But before we go into the story, I'm going to get you to quickly introduce yourself to our audience. Thank you so much for being here on your holiday, Toni. Over to you.
Thank you. Yes, I'm on the Gold Coast with family. My name's Toni, and I was a flight attendant for 20 years. I'm a mother of two, and when COVID hit, I pivoted, and I've been lucky enough to have two passions as careers in my lifetime. So now I'm an EFT practitioner, which is tapping on acupressure points for trauma and stress relief, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. It's absolutely incredible. I absolutely love EFT. It's one of my favorite tools to use, and we'll definitely share a little bit more about that towards the end of our interview. But before we do, I'd really love to give you the opportunity to share your journey. I was so touched by it, and I think that so many people will really love hearing from you because there's so many triggers and so many epiphanies and aha moments in there. I'm not going to take too much away from it. Would you do us the honor to share a little bit about your upbringing, your story, what got you to actually choosing what you're doing now?
Yeah, so my mum had me at 16 and I was an only child with my mum, and it's been a very rocky road. Lots of love, but lots of time where we didn't speak over the years. I just couldn't understand some of the decisions that she made. I had big abandonment issues. And my mother was diagnosed with ovarian cancer 20 years ago and got through that. And then 16, 17 years later, she was diagnosed with another ovarian cancer, a new primary. And so this was terminal. We knew that she only had a limited amount of time, and we both decided together that we would go to counselling to try and sort out all of our differences so that once she was gone, there was nothing left behind. I didn't have any questions.
Yeah.
So she had been seeing a psychologist, an end-of-life psychologist. And so we went and saw her. So we were going to have separate sessions and then sessions together. So when we had our first session together, I had the stand and I was telling my mum how she made me feel, why I had this resentment, and she was just blank, totally blank. And I just couldn't understand. Anyway, the session ended, and when I had my session with the psychologist, I said, can't you see she's a narcissist? Like, she just had no emotion. And she said, no, Toni, your mum's not a narcissist. She has autism. I was like, what? What do you mean? Yeah. She said, I've been working with your mum for quite some time, and without a doubt, she's on the spectrum. And she said, so what do we do now? You know, she might only have a year to live. Do we tell her and everything she thinks she is just gets upturned, or do we just leave it? And straight away, I just decided that we would not tell her. But the amount of compassion that came over me with that one sentence was just, I've never felt anything like it. And straight away, all of that resentment, all of that abandonment, gone. It was just instant.
I'm having goosebumps, and it's not the weather.
I am too, actually, but then it's not just the grief of losing my mum, it's the grief of what could have been had I have known earlier on. I would have made so many more, I would have made more time for her. I would have allowed her to still do the things that she did, but understand why she did them, because there was no way I could have stopped her. So that a lot of whys, hows, coming into play. So I found that grief is so multi-layered, and this is the first time that I've had anyone so close to me pass, and being an only child and not having anyone else to share that with, and have no one to share my memories with.
Because your mom brought you up as a single mom, is that right?
He didn't. No, I was with my dad.
Okay.
Well, and until I was 22, but they were young lovers, and it was a very tumultuous relationship. So lots of breakups and things over the years, and I was sort of palmed off here, there, and everywhere, and so I had all those abandonment issues. Now I realise that my mum just didn't get it. She just didn't get the ramifications of her actions, and that's what this space was. It was just blank. Couldn't understand.
I just want to say it is so beautiful that you actually chose to do this when you knew that your mom was terminal, to sort out challenges and issues that you've been through, because not everybody does it, and B, you did get to sort it out. I understand that you said, would I have known earlier, but you did find out, and you did get there at the end, and that for me is the beautiful part that needs to be focused on, not the what else could have been, but you actually sorted it out. And not many people get to say that. Some people do unfortunately go through sudden death or unexpected or too fast, too soon, and they never get the chance to actually sort through that, yet you did. And that is just so beautiful, because you really touched my heart the very first time you even told me that story. And I thought, wow, kudos to you to even say, come on, Mom, let's go to therapy, let's sort this out. And for you to have this epiphany is such a gift, and not many people get to say that.
Such a gift. And that last year of her life was just magical. I just made allowances with everything. And she just, I can't believe our relationship is just so amazing. And there was no change in her at all. It was just the way
but a change in a relationship. Absolutely.
So beautiful. And I'm so blessed to have had that time. And something else I want to talk about to you with grief is when I knew that it was imminent, I started grieving, and hard. And a girlfriend of mine said to me, why are you grieving? Excuse me. Your mum's still here. Don't waste precious time with her grieving while he's still here. And that was another time, like, it just changed my way of thinking. And I just stayed by her bedside and was with her when she finally closed her eyes. So it was beautiful.
Wow, that's really magical.
All shapes and sizes, right?
There are so many, as you said, there are so many layers, and what could have been is a very big one for a lot of people in the space of grief. So I'd love to hear, how did you work through that? Did you continue go through therapy throughout it all and after, or where did your journey take you once you understood what was actually going on with your mom, and you had this huge letting go moment, and everything made sense, and everything just, it's such a beautiful gift. So where did your journey take you after that?
I continued seeing this psychologist, and I still do. I have had anxiety for my whole life, and seen many a psychologist, but this woman, she's amazing. So for my mental health, I do see her regularly, and not just about grief, about just general life. Like, sometimes I'll see her and I'm just fine, but we'll just talk about normal stuff. And it's really nice, because I don't have a mum now to talk about things with. She's sort of my substitute. So that for me is great for my mental health, and my tapping, EFT tapping. If I really believe, if it wasn't for that and me being able to calm my nervous system when those big feelings of grief come over me, I don't think I would have gotten through it. I'm a very emotional person, and I'm so surprised at how well I have grieved. And that's why I connected with you too, because that loving life after loss, your world was turned upside down, and watching your journey before I went anywhere near my journey was really inspiring to me. So when all of this happened, you were the first person I thought about. I must
Wow.
reach out to you and say, hey, this is what happened to me. Yes, I was lucky enough to say all the things that I wanted to say, but it still doesn't make grieving any easier, I don't think.
Yeah. That's incredible. I just really love how open you talk about it. I think we all need a lot more of that, you know, just to be able to share our emotions, the ugly ones, the beautiful ones, and share them with each other as well. Talk about it and normalize that topic. I'd love to know, when and how did you get into EFT? Was that before you had this with your mom already, the conversations, or was it something that came out of it? Share a little bit about that.
So
or
I
maybe even step back, because there might be people that don't know what EFT is. So maybe you can give us a quick explanation what it is.
So it's called emotional freedom techniques, EFT, or tapping, because that's what we do. We tap with two fingers on certain acupressure points on our face and body. And it's kind of like a psychological acupuncture, because we're tapping on those spots, not putting needles in them, but you're still getting that same response because you're using the meridians in your body, which in the past has been seen as an energetical system in the body. But now they're thinking that it's actually a physical system in our bodies, just like the nervous system, the lymphatic system. So there's a lot of science behind it.
Because when I was training it probably about 10, 12 years ago, and it was part of my coaching training, but we were told that it was like pathways of meridians or something around it. It was definitely classified as like energy fields or something like that. It's been quite a few years. I still know how to do it, but I don't know the whole science behind it anymore. So I thought, but that's interesting that has changed now. It makes so much sense when you think about it, you know, how effective it is, and how simple it is to use. So tell us a bit more about how it works, what you do.
You've got these two tools at the end of your arm at any
Always
time.
with
You want to calm yourself down. And I'll often find myself, now that I do it so often, as soon as I start tapping, I get this calmness come over me. And I'm really passionate about teaching women and children how to calm their nervous systems. And you can do it discreetly as well. There are certain points that you can tap on discreetly under the desk or something if you're in a meeting.
I love that.
It has been life-changing for me. So yeah, I was taught this by my psychologist, and I had been running late, pulled into the car park. The anxiety was coming on, and I got in there and he said, how are you feeling? I said, oh, so anxious. And what do you, like, what, between 0 and 10, how are you feeling? I said, oh, I'm about an 8. And he said, look, I'm going to show you how to do something. He said, so just work with me. And we started tapping on, you know, my points. And I was like, this is weird. It was really strange, really self-conscious and embarrassed by it. And then we did a couple of, it's called a round when you do the whole lot. And we did a couple of rounds, and he said, now how are you feeling? And I went, calm? What is that? And so he explained it to me, and it was quite like quick. So, you know, flipping off I went. And then when COVID hit, I was thinking, and I was a flight attendant, and an international flight attendant. I thought, I don't know how flying will look in the future.
Yeah.
You need to start thinking about doing something else. And because I loved EFT, I thought I'll just see, you know, what's out there as far as training goes. And I found this course, and I went through a few, like working out what I wanted to do, and spoke to quite a few people. Found EFT Universe, and yeah, the rest is history. So it was a 12-month course, but because I lost mum in the middle of that, I then, excuse me, my son's coughing. Mate.
That's okay. I'm like, it's life. I love it.
Where was I? Sorry.
He said it was a 12-month course, but because your mum got sick.
Middle of that, so I took a 6-month extension. So I finished it within 18 months, and and so then now I have my own business, and I'm practicing, and this is history.
I would really love for you to share links when people are interested, and I'm sure there will be many, how they can get in touch with you. But I'm also gonna put a little bit of a spoiler alert in there. I already asked Toni to do a quick recording after this, for our resource corner. So you'll find Toni's details in the resource corner as well, where we talk a little bit about more about EFT. But this interview was mainly for your story, really, and I really love how you have addressed it. Like when I really want to go back to that one more time, that moment where you said, I do want to work this out with my mom. How did that come about? Like, because not everybody has this, I want to just call it plain and simple wisdom to, in that moment, say, you know what, we need to do something about this. Was it something that you decided, that you both decided? Had you both already seen a counselor separately at the time? Or how did that idea come about? Because I'm not sure if I would have had that wisdom in that moment. I was 20 when my dad passed, and that was probably the last thing I would have thought of. Maybe I should go to therapy right now to work through this. I would have not even thought of it. I started therapy a year after my dad passed away because of all the ramifications, because of all the triggers that have come up through his passing. But before, I think that's incredible wisdom. How did that come about?
Well, Mum was already seeing this end-of-life psychologist, and she'd been talking about, our relationship, and the psychologist said, what do you think about Toni and yourself coming in and talking? And so Mum, we were sitting across the table from each other at my house, and she said, what do you think? And I said, yeah, I'd love to. I didn't think twice about it. Yes, I'd love to. End of story. But we only had that one together. And then after that, I said to Mum, you know what? I don't need to go back, because there was no use, because she wasn't going to understand anyway. And that compassion, honestly, like.
And you got that one thing that you needed. Yeah.
Didn't need it. I did not need it anymore. I'll never be able to explain the enormity of that feeling of compassion that came over me. And it's something now that I can conjure up at any time. So for me, if I am struggling with somebody, I don't agree with them, I don't understand what they're doing, I can conjure up that feeling of compassion again. And it makes me realize that it's okay. It's not about me, let them be. I'm not going to be able to change them. So it's just a blessing. It really is a blessing.
I can so imagine. I wanted to ask you, have you ever, you probably have heard of Neil Donald Walsh. He's read the trilogy Conversations with God, but he's also written a few children's books, and it was about the little soul and God. And have you ever heard of these books?
No, I haven't.
Because I've shared that in a talk before, and the talk was called Chain Reaction of Healing. And I read this book about the little soul to my son when he was about 5. It was quite a long book, like not a children's story that you read in one sitting as a bedtime story. We read it over a few nights, and there was this one sentence, and it so just made me think of you when you said that, this epiphany. And I had a similar moment with a completely different relationship, because I had quite a few unhappy relationships between, me starting dating at a young age, and then meeting my husband at an older age, because I was 32 when I met Rob. So there were a few unhappy relationships in between. And I read this story when it comes to that sentence where God says to the little soul, I only ever sent you angels. And that to me was such a, absolutely incredible moment, where I thought, wow, when you think about it, that certain people are always sent to us on purpose. And I thought it was such a beautiful thing, depending, of course, everybody's got a different faith, and not everybody believes in God, but just that concept of it, that even by the universe, or by whoever, whatever you believe in, that people are sent to us in a certain format, in a certain setting, for a reason. And I had similar epiphanies with the relationship with my mom, although we've got a very different relationship, and there was no spectrum involved in that. But we all have so many different layers of relationship, and not all of them are smooth, and I often feel this is the exact reason why we're here on earth, to have this human experience, to have this experience. And learn certain things. And when I read this one sentence, I remember I was sitting there, like, just Glenn and I. Jed was in the other room, Rob was somewhere else, and I had this absolute epiphany moment where I thought, how amazing is this? It completely shifted and changed my way of looking at these relationships that I had, that I felt were such unhappy relationships and unhealthy relationships. I'm like, but they were angels sent to me for me to learn something. Do you know what I mean? It was just such a beautiful, I thought that you out of all people, you would get this, and I feel there's probably so much blessing in a relationship that you had with your mom once you understood that. Is that right?
Yeah, oh, totally. And this psychologist, she's a true angel.
Yeah.
I saw the morning after my mum passed, we went out for breakfast, just the local cafe at the end of my street.
How beautiful.
And I just turned around and she was standing in the line to get coffee. And she just, because I'd sent her a message saying Mum just passed. Wow. And she just took one look at me and she came up and we just hugged and it was beautiful. And then I was
going to make me cry.
I was in a shop in Wollongong and I was buying some things for a memorial for my mum, and she was right beside me. I just turned to the side and went, so she keeps turning up. Like, she's just like my guardian angel. And, like I said, she's mum now. I talk to her about everything, and it's nice to get that advice that, you would have got from your mum. I pay for it though. But she's just lovely. So angels, she was definitely an angel. And signs, I'm sure you see signs. With what I do is energy work, and you put that energy out there and it comes back to you, and I see so many signs, and that to me makes me feel like she's always with me. You
want to share a little bit about those signs? Can you share some examples?
I've got a great story.
I love them.
I was doing some tapping with my mentor about once I had certified that I was really sad that I couldn't share that with my mum. And so we did some tapping on it, and we did a technique, and she said, I want you to ask your mum what signs she'll give you that she's around. And my mum loved horses. So I said, it'd have to be horses. And she said, no, you're thinking it's horses. I need you. And we were doing a tapping meditation. She said, I need to ask your mum what it is. And this feather kept coming in my mind, and I was pushing the feather out and bringing the horses in.
I want the horses.
I said, I think it's a feather because it keeps coming in. And said, you watch, you'll see feathers everywhere now. And I did over the next couple of days. Every day I saw a feather in an unusual place, and I'm like, no, it's just a coincidence. It's just a coincidence. And then 3 days later, I was at a girlfriend's 50th, and I hadn't even noticed, but every table arrangement had a big feather in it, and I hadn't even noticed. And I was standing at the bar talking to a friend, and this lady came up to me with this feather this big and went like this all over my back, and I went, oh, what's happening? Turned around and went like this and handed me a feather and then waltzed off.
Wow.
And it was like that big.
Wow. Oh, God, I've got goosebumps
and it was like,
again.
Here's the feathers. You're not noticing
it.
So I still have that
face.
feather.
Come on.
That feather now sits beside her urn. So
That's
that was an amazing sign. And when I was telling my mentor, she said, wow, she's a strong spirit, that mum. I went,
yeah.
She is.
That is so beautiful. I absolutely love this. Toni, tell us, how can people get in touch with you? We will be sharing some links, but where are you mainly hanging out in the social space? Is it Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram? Where can people find you, or all of the above?
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
TikTok. Hip and young. I'm not on TikTok. I should be, but I'm not.
And it's me, raw and real. There's, it's not a pretty social page. It's just
we just want real.
I tell it how it is.
Yeah.
The only filter I ever wear is maybe a bit of makeup. But it's Emotional Freedom Collective. .com.au like all the You've got to have now.
all the layers. They all, yeah, all roads lead to Rome. I
Yeah.
love it. And as I said, we'll be sharing them underneath our interview. Is there anything, any last wisdom that you would like to share with us before we go?
Yeah. Like, they talk about finding a niche, and
Yeah.
I really, for me, my niche is helping. I really want to help people through grief, and just as you do, showing people that life does go on and it can still be wonderful. And so that is definitely, and trying to, if you didn't get the chance to have that beautiful experience that I had, so you have all of these questions remaining, I want to help people through that so that they don't, go through life with the what ifs and anxiety, because I know it so well. Like it is with me forever. So for me, finding something that works for you to help you through your grief, and it has to be something. If you let it just control you, you won't be happy for the rest of your life. You need to find something, whether it be walking every day, whether it be meditation, whether it be tapping, a psychologist, whatever.
All of the above.
All the above. You need to find something that is going to have grief walk with you, not overtake you.
Yeah. I really like that. It is such an important thing. And I always say, I don't know what your take on that is, but I always say, for me, I always treat grief like a visitor, not somebody who walks with me permanently. I really refuse to see it that way, because I have a really beautiful life these days. I've worked really intentionally on it, and I've chosen this, and I know that everybody can do that. And it so depends on how we look at life. And I love the way you look at life. I love that you came and shared your story with us. Thank you so much for being here. And as I said, you'll find Toni in our resource corner, and we will also be sharing links underneath. So if that's something that you're like, I really want to try it out, and I'm going to even tell you now, like, if you've never tried out EFT, do yourself a favor and give it a go. It's incredible. It is so simple to use. It is a tool that you will have for the rest of your life, that you can take with you wherever you go. And as Toni said at the very beginning, it's something that is that you can do quite subtle, under the table. People don't even need to notice, because at the beginning, when we did when it did start with EFT, I remember we were sitting in the car doing it. It's like people look at you like, what is she doing? But these days things are getting so much more normalized anyway, and I love that we talk about that.
Well, what Marie, doesn't yoga look quite silly? Downward dog, like when people started doing it, what downward dog?
That's so true.
And now it's like, it's just the norm, right? Everyone does yoga. So it's same thing. It is definitely coming to the forefront, and you'll see a lot more of it. And it's got so much scientific background to it. So
perfect. I absolutely love it. So thank you so much for sharing this with us, for bringing EFT a little bit closer to all of us, and in particular for sharing your beautiful story about your mom and you. I think this is absolutely incredible, and I truly hope that a lot of people will see that and might get a bit of an idea of making some changes in their lives right now. So thank you for being here, Toni, on your holiday, live from the Gold Coast. And I'm live from the Southern Highlands. I had to think about where I am at the moment. Sending you all so much love. This is Toni and Marie signing off. Bye for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.